First, we have regenerating health, a mechanic that's now a staple in almost every modern shooter. Before Halo, combat evolved in 2001. Most shooters relied on health packs. You'd take damage, and your only hope was to find a med kit. But Halo flipped the script by introducing a regenerating shield that allowed players to stay in the action longer without constantly hunting for health. This mechanic made the game more tactical. You couldn't just hide behind cover and wait for health packs. You had to make sure your shield recharged. Now, every FPS worth its salt uses this, from Call of Duty to Battlefield. It became the standard, making health packs feel like a relic of the past. Coming up at number 9, we have the active reload mechanic from Gears of War. This one was a game changer for shooters. Instead of waiting for a reload to finish, Gears of War gave players the ability to reload faster by hitting the button at the right moment. If you timed it perfectly, you got a quicker reload. But if you messed up, the gun would jam, leaving you vulnerable. It added an extra layer of skill and timing to combat, and honestly, it was so satisfying when you nailed it. Other games quickly adapted this mechanic, and now you'll see similar systems in titles like The Division and Bulletstorm. If you've ever felt that rush of a perfectly timed reload, you know how important it was to modern shooters. Next up at number 8, we have the Nemesis system from Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor. This one was revolutionary. Imagine you're fighting an orc, and they get the better of you, only for that orc to remember you when you come back. They get stronger, they taunt you, and they even move up in the ranks. This dynamic AI system allowed enemies to grow, change, and hold grudges. It made the world feel more alive. And while it was initially unique to Shadow of Mordor, it sparked interest across the industry, with games like Shadow of War, The Witcher 3, and even Assassin's Creed borrowing similar systems to keep players on their toes. Coming up at number 7, you can't talk about game mechanics without mentioning Battle Royale. While H1Z1 and DayZ had early versions, it was PUBG and later Fortnite that truly brought Battle Royale to the mainstream. The concept is simple. 100 players drop onto an island, and the last one standing wins. The mechanic isn't just about survival. It's about ever-shrinking zones, forcing players into confrontation. Every big game in the past few years has jumped on the Battle Royale bandwagon. From Call of Duty Warzone to Apex Legends to Free Fire. Whether you love it or hate it, this mechanic has reshaped multiplayer gaming as we know it. Next up at number 6, we've got parkour movement, which revolutionized how we navigate game worlds. Sure, Prince of Persia laid the groundwork, but it was Assassin's Creed and Mirror's Edge that took it to new heights. In Assassin's Creed, parkour became a fluid part of the gameplay, climbing, leaping, and seamlessly moving through environments. It made exploration feel effortless and exhilarating. Fast forward a few years, and you see games like Dying Light, Titanfall, and Watch Dogs adopting similar parkour mechanics. Heck, even Zelda, Breath of the Wild incorporated climbing, proving how influential this mechanic has been in pushing the boundaries of how players move in open worlds. Coming up at number 5, we've got a mechanic that's often seen as either a blessing or a curse, quick time events or QTs. These moments require players to press a button or combo of buttons in real time during cutscenes or action sequences. First introduced in Shenmue, they became wildly popular with God of War and Resident Evil 4. They add intensity to cinematic moments and make players feel more involved, but they're often criticized for breaking immersion. Still, no one can deny their widespread impact. Other games like Heavy Rain, Uncharted, and The Walking Dead leaned heavily into QTs to keep players on the edge of their seats. Next up at number 4, we've got the cover system, which allows players to hide behind walls and objects during gunfights. It all started with Gears of War. The ability to snap into cover, blind fire, and peek around corners made combat feel more tactical and intense. This system was so successful that it has been copied in nearly every major third-person shooter since, including Uncharted, Tomb Raider, and The Division. It transformed how we think about gunplay in games, making shootouts feel more like a calculated risk rather than a spray-and-pray situation. Next up at number 3, time manipulation. Whether it's rewinding, slowing down, or freezing time, this mechanic has its roots in Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. The ability to rewind time, allowing players to correct mistakes or explore different strategies, was not only unique but revolutionary. This mechanic caught on quickly, with games like Max Payne and BioShock Infinite incorporating similar time-based abilities. And who could forget Quantum Break, where time itself was a puzzle? It's one of those mechanics that forces players to think outside the box and keeps the gameplay fresh, no matter how many times you played it. Coming up at number 2, we've got interactive stealth mechanics. While stealth games have been around for a while, Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell took stealth to a whole new level. These games made stealth not just about avoiding enemies, but about actively manipulating your environment. Hiding in shadows, distracting guards, and using gadgets to outsmart enemies became a thrilling part of gameplay. What made these mechanics so memorable is how they forced you to think like an infiltrator. You weren't just sneaking around, you were in control of how the enemies reacted to you. This set a new standard for stealth in games. And now, even games like Assassin's Creed and Hitman borrow from these systems to give players a more dynamic, immersive stealth experience. Finally, coming in at number 1, we've got dynamic open worlds with living, breathing ecosystems. The Elder Scrolls V. Skyrim set the stage for open-world games, but it was Red Dead Redemption 2 that truly mastered the art of a world that feels alive. In these games, NPCs go about their lives with their own routines, animals behave naturally, and the environment reacts to your actions. The world isn't just a backdrop, it's part of the story. This mechanic has now been adopted by nearly every major open-world game, from Far Cry to Ghost of Tsushima, and it's become the gold standard for what an open world can be. If you've ever gotten lost in a game world because it felt so real, you have this mechanic to thank. And that wraps up our list of game mechanics that were so good, they got copied by everyone. Some of these innovations have truly reshaped the gaming industry, and it's crazy to think about how far we've come because of them. What do you think? Did we miss any iconic mechanics? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Frame Xpert/FPS Xpert for more awesome gaming content. And remember, if you're into deep dives into gaming trends, tech, or anything else that makes gaming great, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Hit that notification bell so you're always up to date. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.